So recently I banged out my solo flawless run of the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, and I figured I would upload a quick video just to show what my strategies were, how I did it. I've had a lot of people ask me what my build was, and here's the gist of it. It's somewhat optimized, but not heavily optimized. And that's kind of one thing I would say about this dungeon. It's not as hard as I thought it would be to solo flawless it. So if that's one of the things keeping you from doing it, is just that idea, the daunting idea of such a big task, just know that it's really not that bad. I did one practice run on stream, and then banged it out on my first official attempt to do it flawlessly. First try, banged it out, no problem. And here's how I did it. So I'll walk you through each encounter and just some basic tips on how I got those things done. But first, I want to go over the basics of the build so you know what I'm using throughout these encounters. There are some things that are non-negotiable. First and foremost, on your bond or whatever your class item is, you're definitely going to want to run solo operative. This is just it's free damage. It's free damage. If you're doing anything solo without a fire team, you'd be crazy not to put this on. So that's the very first thing that's a non-negotiable here. The second thing is weaken to clear. Now, I'm not going to be using the grenade launcher for the first couple of encounters, but once we get to the Harpy boss at the top of the Spire, from then on, I'm going to be running Wither Horde, and Weakened Clear is going to help me do extra damage to the bosses during each damage phase, so that's going to be very, very crucial then. Other than that, I'm using the Ikelos SMG with Feeding Frenzy and Volt Shot. This is very, very helpful for clearing ads. Volt Shot's going to be helping me get free damage on all the ads surrounding the one I'm shooting. Very, very important. But on top of that, it's going to be making Warmind cells, so I may as well have a build that takes advantage of those. One thing that's really cool is that if you put on Global Reach, not only is it going to do a lot of damage to the basic ads around the room, but it's also going to be queuing up those nodes, right? The mechanic for this dungeon is that you have to shoot these nodes to complete these circuits. Well, Global Reach is going to do damage to those nodes anywhere near it. So this is a great way to just auto-complete certain circuits without having to run around and shoot each individual node. So the reach on this is very wide. It's going to help you save a lot of time chasing those nodes down. The other thing I'm using is Warmind's Protection. So anytime I drop a Warmind cell, the ads and enemies near that Warmind cell will do reduced damage to me. So that's also just a really nice thing to have to help with survivability. The other thing about survivability, I've got something on here that is incorrect. What is incorrect? Is this? Yeah, that's it. Sorry. The other thing I'm doing here is I've got max resilience. Max resilience is really important because it's going to give you that base 40% damage reduction. Now, that's really important when you're trying to solo flawless anything. It's going to keep you alive. So you'd be crazy not to do it. So those are some of the non-negotiables. Other than that, I've got my ammo finders on, reload speed for my SMG, because that's my ad clearer. Weakened Clear is going to help reload my stowed weapons, so I don't have to worry about linear reload speeds or anything like that. Now, in terms of weapons, I'm going to keep it really simple here. I use Arbalest for the first half of the dungeon, and then I take it off, and I use Wither Horde for the second half of the dungeon. So Arbalest is really important because it's got built-in anti-barrier. The first half of this dungeon has a lot of Hydras, and so it's really helpful to take them down through those shields as you're trying to complete these circuits or you're trying to do the jumping puzzles. Those things are going to be just beaming you. So this is going to be a big boon. Even in the opening encounter, you've got those Cyclopses. We want to be able to take them down quickly too, because if they snipe you with their eyeball shot, if you're weak at all, it's going to kill you. So that's important too. I already told you the SMG is on for the entirety of this dungeon run. The Taipan is also on for the entirety of this dungeon run. Now, I said earlier I'm not completely optimized. This right here is a testament to that. A Cataclysmic would be a better choice here. I've got firing line on this thing. It is not optimized for solo damage output. So, you know, you can finely tune every single part of your build to make sure that everything is working to your advantage. But I don't think you necessarily have to. I completed my solo flawless run of this dungeon with a firing line Taipan. So don't feel like you gotta overcommit unless you are built that way. I'm not built that way. When it comes to PvE, I care to a certain degree. Everything past that, I don't care anymore. So I care about having a build that works. But in terms of being super finely tuned, I don't care beyond that. So anyways. Yeah, so that's the basic gist of the build. Let's get into the encounters. Okay, so let's talk about this very first encounter. This is really just meant to teach you the mechanic for the dungeon. It's really not overly complex. But if you let the Cyclopses do damage to you, this could get away from you really, really quickly. So, I recommend that you obviously take good advantage of Global Reach. It's going to help you reach some of these nodes that are out in the open. But otherwise, just pick one at a time and make your way through them. Make sure you're playing your life. You're not in a rush here. My genuine philosophy for these solo flawless dungeon runs, because I've done almost all of them at this point, I tend to play just slow and steady. You know, slow and steady wins the race. You're going to have some supplicants trying to chase you down. Obviously, you got to keep an eye out for those. Make sure you've got a good headset on so you can hear the audio cues that the game is trying to give you about the supplicants being on the way. But you'll see me using these Global Reach Warmind cells just to clear ads and then focus on the Minotaurs, pick up my buff, complete the circuits. There's really not a lot to unpack here other than just keeping an eye out for the Cyclopses. They will start to respawn as you're completing these nodes, as you're completing these circuits. So at this point, I've got these locations of these nodes memorized, but you may not. So just follow the cables and don't be in a rush. You'll be fine. Once you've cleared that section, next you're going to be descending, and this is it's just a simple descent, right? But it can ruin your flawless run pretty quickly if you let it get away from you. So if you just jump straight down, there's a good chance you're going to get splattered against a wall and die. There's these ledges on the sides. I don't mess around with all that. I just go down to these ledges. I do this on my Titan, I do it on my Hunter, I do it on my Warlock. Use these ledges just to make sure that you're taking this descent in manageable chunks that aren't going to kill you. Then start making your way through the vents to the next major section where you'll come to this opening where you can see Perseus, the main boss of the dungeon on your right. And you got to make your way through this big open area, this little jumping puzzle. The biggest thing here, I'm going to tell you, you got to have that arbalest on. And what you want to do is you want to kill the hydras, because they're going to be the biggest problem here. They're going to follow you around and just beam you from really far away. So an SMG is not going to take them down. You could use a scout rifle. I just use the arbalest. Seems easy enough. So make sure you take those, at least the first 2 hydras down. After that, I just send it and I run. The rest of the way is really not too big of a problem. The very last hydra isn't too much of a threat if you just run right past him. Whee! Pardon me. Excuse me. And now you've ascended to the next stage. And this is just a 3-part encounter where you're climbing, you're wrapping up the Spire, and you're completing these nodes along the way. Again, just keep an eye out for the hydras. I make sure that I kill the hydras. I don't mess around with that. I make sure that I take them down. And Global Reach, again, is going to do you a lot of favors here with completing some of these circuits. But Volt Shot on the SMG is going to help clear the goblins, no problem. They're not too bad. If things get out of hand, never feel bad about using something like a super or your healing grenade or whatever it is that you have to help keep you alive. That's what it's there for. You don't want to lose your flawless run because you were too stingy with something like your super or heavy ammo, stuff like that. So anyways, pick up your buffs, complete the circuits, climb the Spire. On one of these stages, there's these electric currents where one of the Minotaurs spawn, and the beginning of the circuits start. I think it's on the 2nd tier. I don't even walk in there, because those electric circuits, those electric beams, the hitbox on those things is like huge. Like you won't even be touching it. You'll be like 3 feet away from the thing, and it'll still tag you. So I don't even go near it. I don't mess with that stuff on flawless runs. So just keep a wide berth on that and you should be okay. Once you've completed the final circuit of the 3rd stage, all of the ads will despawn and you're good to go. And now you're up to Achelos. Achelos? I don't know. I just call him the Harpy boss. This is really the first like major gear check of the dungeon. So it's going to make you really have a good build for boss DPS. And as with literally everything in the game, it seems, just use a linear fusion rifle. So this is the way it's been. This is no surprise. So when it comes to boss deeps, I'm just hitting them with the Wither Horde to do the weakened clear debuff on him. And I'm throwing down my well to do damage. And then just switching to the Taipan. It's got the Vice Stinger perk on it. Obviously got triple tap. So the best damage phases are the ones where you don't have to reload. That's gonna take up a lot of time that you could be doing damage. So when it comes to the eyes, a lot of people ask, well, what did you use for the eyes? Do you use trace rifles? I mean, you can use a trace rifle. That's a great way to bang down those eyes quickly. There's also like some good rolls on sniper rifles, like triple tap or 4 times the charm. You can use that as well, just to bang down a bunch of eyes quickly. But for me, I just use the Well of Radiance at the beginning of the eyes, and then that makes it so that my SMG only needs like 3 bullets to pop an eyeball. So I can pop 4 or 5 in a single mag. I've got the reload speed buff on my gauntlets, so I never had a problem with taking down the eyes quickly. Other than that, make sure you take a slight step to the right or the left while you're doing damage, because when the Harpy boss does do this big knockback AoE thing that ends the damage phase, if that hits you, it could throw you straight back into the pillar and splatter you. I've died that way before, so I don't mess with that anymore. I just step to the right or the left, and if he pushes me, I obviously just jump back up to safety, no problem. Now, when it comes to getting to the damage phase, I recommend that you actually take the time to bang down these harpies. Don't let the harpies stay. If you've got harpies up during the damage phase, they're going to be lasering you from 200, 300 yards away, and it's going to be flinching you to high heaven, and it makes the damage phase really dirty. You can't proc triple tap, all that stuff. So if you want to have a good, clean damage phase, you want to make the most of the damage phase time, then make sure you've killed the harpies before you complete the final and 4th circuit to queue up the damage phase. So don't let the ads get away from you. I usually complete like 2 circuits, and then before I do the last 2, I do some ad clearing. I clear everything, and then I complete the 3rd one and most of the 4th. And before I finish up the 4th circuit, I'm just going to take a quick look around, make sure that all the harpies are gone. So this is really just a test of endurance. You rinse, you repeat, you stay safe, you don't take any major risks, and you should be okay here. So that encounter is really a marathon, not a race, not a sprint. And then we get to the descent to the final boss. Now on the way down, you're going to have some nodes and circuits to complete, but they're all pretty compact. They're packed in pretty tightly, which means that Global Reach can auto-complete most, if not all, of these nodes for you. So that's really nice to have. I really can't recommend Global Reach enough during this dungeon. But you're going to kill the hobgoblins, then the goblins in the bottom of the room. That's going to queue up the Minotaur to spawn. You kill the Minotaur, you save a Warmind cell, you pop the cell, you complete the nodes, you drop down, and then you're at the fans. And the biggest piece of advice I can give you for the fans is don't jump. Just walk off of the ledges, don't jump. And then before you fall, make sure you line up your fall through the fan so that you're going to land on a solid surface and not another fan. So those are the 2 things. Don't jump, and make sure you look down before you walk off the edge so you know you're going to land on something solid. And you're going to rinse and repeat that until you get down to the room with the Hydra. Again, these electric currents, the hitboxes on them are very, very big. Give yourself a wide berth when you're going past them. Make sure you're playing it safe there. I just run around the perimeter of this room, clearing ads, trying to keep my health up. Use Wither Horde to take the Hydra down. Now, a quick thing about Wither Horde, you can just shoot it straight at the Hydra shield, and it'll tag the Hydra and stick to the Hydra. So a lot of people don't know that. They kind of wait for the opening between the shields and the Hydras. You don't have to do that with Wither Horde. Just shoot it directly. But there's 5 nodes to complete here. There's 1 on each of the 4 walls, and then 1 in the middle where the Hydra spawns. So this room is really just pretty straightforward. Kill everything, complete the circuits. You've been doing this the whole dungeon. And that brings us to the final encounter, Percy's. Again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And a lot of people use like fusion grenade damage strats here, or they use a rocket launcher because you don't have to worry about crits. I just stuck with the Taipan. Okay, I just stuck with the Taipan. I had some really good damage phases. I had some not so great damage phases. It really is it's just a toss-up. But again, here, Global Reach is going to be really nice for completing some of these circuits without me having to run around and tag every single node. But the first thing you're going to do is take out the Hydras. You obviously prioritize them first, and then once you get the back room open, then you can just run to the back room and bottleneck everything. The boss is going to try and walk up to the door that you're on. So I just go back and forth from one door to the next, make sure the Hydras are dead. And then obviously the biggest threat to you in this room is the Supplicants, because they're going to be chasing you around, trying to blow up on you. it's kind of not bueno. So I definitely take full advantage of Icarus Dash here and the healing grenades to offset any damage that they might do. But Volt Shot is also really nice here for clear. These ads tend to be packed in kind of tightly, so that's nice to have. But anyways, yeah, you're just going to rinse and repeat. You're going to kill your Minotaur. You're going to play it safe and complete each circuit. There's going to be 2 circuits for you to complete after you open the main central door. Make sure the boss is making his way into that final room before you queue up the damage phase. And then it's all about execution, making sure that everything is working properly. So once you have completed the final node in the reactor room, you have to come out, and then you have to make sure that you have the Arctrician buff so that you can close the door to the reactor room and lock the boss Perseus inside of it for that detonation. So it's just the simple stuff. One bit of advice: don't complete that final node in the reactor room to queue up damage phase until you're sure that you can make it out safely. Don't do it from the back of the room, because sometimes you're going to have all these ads blocking your path out, supplicants blocking your path out. You really need to have full health when you complete that last node, and don't do it from the back of the room so you have a short jog to get out. So as soon as the reactor door opens, I'm going to shoot the Wither Horde to activate Weakened Clear. It's also going to reload my weapons just in case I didn't have them reloaded. And then I'm going to aim right at central, right in his crit spot, and just beam away with the linear fusion rifle. And like I said, I had some great damage phases. I had some not so great damage phases. But as long as you're playing it slow and smart, you should be okay here. Make sure you respect the supplicants. And I really don't think this encounter is all that bad. It's just a test of endurance, really. And so you rinse and repeat. You stick to your guns, you get it done, and that's all she wrote. Like I said, I don't think this is one of the more difficult dungeons to solo flawless, honestly. I think Shattered Throne was more difficult than this one, and Shattered Throne isn't really all that bad. But Duality is probably tougher than this. So if you did Duality, hey, don't worry about this one. If you did Prophecy, don't worry about that. I didn't even think Prophecy was that bad either. But I would put this one lower on the list of difficulty level. So I believe in you. Good luck getting this done. And let me know if this video was helpful for you. I know, like I said, not a perfectly optimized build. Like, my exotic armor piece is doing absolutely nothing for me because it's Starfire Protocol and I'm using healing grenades. But it was one of those things where I put it on and then optimized all of my resilience and stat allocation and all that business. And then by the time I realized it didn't work, I just didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'll just do this without exotic armor, basically. So anyways, you can be more optimal than me and keep yourself even safer and do even more damage. So if I can do it with this trash build, then I believe in you. So best of luck to you, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye-bye. There it is, baby.
This was a clever
solo flawless, baby. Hey, that feels good, honestly. That wasn't too bad at all.